Welcome to another episode of Concrete Mystique, the podcast. Today is going to be a blast. We just got back from the ultimate show in Canton, Ohio at the Football Hall of Fame with the Decorative Concrete Expo. So today we are going to talk about all the stuff we had fun doing. I have Tony Ronaldo with me. It is slowly becoming Captain T and the Purist show. It's not always just going to be Concrete Mystique. It's slowly becoming Captain T and the Purist. And of course, I am the purist. We all know, I've got that ego. I've got to stroke it every once in a while and have my point of view. But on top of that, to make this even better, I've got Jeff Hershberger willing to come on and talk to us. Now, Jeff and I have done shows before together on the podcast, but he was the one that said, when am I coming on after the show this year? And I was like, as soon as possible, I will not hesitate. So let's get the ball rolling. Thank you very much for both of you joining me, and welcome.
Thanks for having me on, as always, Captain. Good to see you, buddy.
Likewise. Always a pleasure coming on with Rick, and can't go wrong having Jeff on here as well. So what a time we just had, though. How about it?
I got to admit, speaking of stroking my ego, that was a pretty good intro. That was probably the best intro I've done yet.
My suggestion was, though, is that it would be Captain T and the boys, and I know it wasn't cool enough for you, and you already thought about the other one, but
yeah, well, I think Captain T and the boys just sounds kind of weird. I don't know. It's just
that pushes the highlight onto me versus sharing it with Rick, so that was off the table.
Yeah, well, there's that too. Yeah. All right, so we don't need to get into like we normally do where, hey, Jeff, when's the first time we met? Because we've already done that before too. We've been friends for a very long time. So let's most of the people know that because they've heard us talk, but let's kind of go back in time a little bit. We do this every time we talk at the show. We always talk about the history of the two of us at the show. Let's just ask the serious question. What is it like dealing with Rick every time he's there?
Oh, it's a drag. It's a drag. No, I'm just kidding. It's absolutely great. There's a reason that you were one of the first people we called when we started this whole thing. Obviously we were already friends. We already knew you, and we knew that you'd be willing to come out. But no, it was always something that we, what you do with the engraving is, I know that there's some other people doing it now, but at that time, it was kind of a one-off thing. There wasn't really anybody else doing it. It was such a cool look. We all knew each other. We were already friends. It obviously made tons of sense. And so honestly, and again, as much as I hate to admit all this, when back before there was a Smackdown, it was just all the featured artists and everybody, we kind of split things up and this Decorative person took care of these three people and this Decorative person took care of those three people. And I always wanted Rick as one of mine because it was so easy. All you needed is a little bit of dye, maybe a little bit of acid stain and some sealer, and that's it. Like, bring all your own tools. I was like, I'll take that every time. This is the easiest one there.
Wait a minute. It might be easy on the front end before I get there, but we both know it's not easy once I'm there.
No, the drama's terrible. The drama's terrible, but the drama
the 1 year
and the like. What do you think about this? And I'm like, yeah, that looks great. Are you sure? What do you think about this? And I'm like, nope. Okay, that one's fine too. What do you think about this? I'm like, just do what you want to do. But you always like force me into like picking one. And I'm like, Rick, just do something. I don't care. Like,
but that also goes back to the first time we did this. The lion head was Jason's idea. So I assume every single time it's like, well, I kind of need to know what you guys want me to show off, not just the acid stain or the dye. But, like the 1 year that Jason did ask me to do a mural on the floor and I had to do that koi pond, look that I did. And I looked at him like he was crazy. I was like, do you have any idea how long this is going to take me to do? And you guys didn't. Afterward, you did. And we all learned our lesson. And then I think it was 2 years in a row that it was like, man, this is going to take me forever every single time. And I'm like, I still want to do it. It's still going to be awesome. So yeah, there's a lot of drama when you guys ask too much of me every single time. Gotta love it.
My favorite one was when it was, we were like, oh yeah, we want you to do something on the broom concrete outside, realistic with acid stain, and then you show up and the slab looks about like this as far as it's like, how am I gonna do this? It's gonna be running. I'm like, this is what we got, bud. This is what we got.
Not just the hill, but how big it was too. That was like what, 600-700 square feet.
It was pretty big.
We're normally doing like 200 square feet at the most. And this sucker was huge. Oh, I'm glad I had help that year.
Closer to 1,000, to be honest with you.
Yeah, it was big. That was a undertaking, especially with the design I did with the 3D, whatever you want to call them, shapes going through the 3D tile pattern. That was pretty fun. That was a great one.
It
And then
still
that's
looks
the
good
same
though.
one too that I didn't
I
finish in
drive
time.
across that parking lot 2 or 3 times a week, and it still is. I mean, of course, like anything else, it's outside. It's 10 years old. It's Ohio, but no, it still looks great.
That was also when we were freezing and the ice was dripping off the roof of the tents and dripping onto my acid stain, and there was just no stopping the terror I had on that project and the timing. That was hilarious. I mean,
I was
it's
getting
crazy the
out of it.
stories we have about these projects because it's not just the project; it's everything else around it, is it not?
Absolutely, and like a couple years it would rained, and like there's no way to keep that rainwater from running under them tents. One year it snowed, and then that was fine until it started melting, and then it was again water running under the tents, and yeah, we're awful glad to be past those days and be in where it's warm. Don't have to worry about
Yes.
the weather, and just like all that stuff. I mean, don't get me wrong, it was realistic because that was actually our parking lot, and so you know that was cool because that stuff will be there forever. It's also cool because it proves the fact of how long this stuff actually lasts. Like the way we do it now is like this stuff needs to last like 3 days, and if that's it's going to go away. So I've always liked that part of it. But yeah, I mean, of course, nobody likes being out there when it's cold and water running in, and yeah, we're ecstatic to be past all that part.
Well, it's a good point because I had so much pride in the fact that I'm making these permanent locations at your facility every single year. There was such a big deal behind that, and the abuse it was going to take too. We talked about that through all of them. It was like, well, this one's going to take forklift abuse. This one's going to take tire abuse. And we got to kind of monitor and see truly what we're doing together and being able to back up what we say about these products.
No, absolutely, and like so, two other ones that I can think of, and maybe you got a photo you can throw up here. My favorite one was the one that it was out in the parking lot. It was a smaller slab. It had kind of that like the Red Baron cross in the middle.
Oh
That one
yeah,
was
yeah, yeah, yeah. With
that
the
one was
3D, with the
super
3D
cool.
tiles that almost look like cinder block.
Yeah, and that was I don't know, shoot, that was at least 5 years ago, and then that thing's still doing great. Now the one that inside you were talking about that koi pond, that one there, even though I'm trying to remember, I'm pretty sure we ground that whole thing down, prepped it right and everything, and it looked great for a
Yeah.
while. But we had just put that water-based urethane on it, and I will say from years of forklift traffic, and I'm sure you've noticed it over there, but the whole part where the forklifts drive over, like that is almost gone now. And then you can just see right where it's at. And then from there on back to the wall, it literally looks like we just top coated yesterday. So it's crazy to see all that. And the, kind of proved to me that, some of the water based urethanes just don't quite hold up to forklift traffic the way that something solvent based would.
No, that's a very good point. And I think if I remember on top of that too, we saw the white disappear first. And that was also because we both knew that I put a little too much white down. And we talk about, your dyes and the level of how much how transparent you can make them and how much you dilute them and how there's a reason why we tell you put this much in with this much pigment, X, and all these kind of things because I did overstain that white and that was the first thing to wear off.
Yep. And it's hard to get it white without overdoing it.
Right.
It's really hard to turn gray concrete white just with dye like that thin, and so that's what people end up doing. And then this is what happens. So it's always cool to see that, and I kind of use that as an example of like, okay, well, this is what can happen, and this is what will happen, and this is how you have to protect it. And so,
Right.
that stuff was all great, man. We could some of the stuff Keith did, and areas that we that we told him we're going to need to use this afterwards, and then it became kind of unusable because of all the stuff growing out of the floor and everything else. And I remember the one year Crystal did those little sea creatures on her project just out of overlay, and they were sticking up. I don't know, quarter
Yeah.
inch, half inch,
Yeah.
and
Easily.
oh
Yeah.
yeah, like the forklifts just destroyed those things, and
Yeah.
so yeah, it's a good way to test it and see what happens, but. Now we don't have to worry about any of that anymore as far as that part
No.
goes, driving over it. But we learned a lot during that stuff.
Well, and to that same point, and Captain T, you can jump in any time now too. So talking about the show, let's start with how was the attendance this year?
It was better. It was better than ever. I don't have the exact number. They were still trying to sift through like the Friday walk up numbers and all that good stuff. But I want to say everybody, like minus vendors and Decocrete staff, it was close to 1,700.
Nice. Okay. Cool. Awesome. So the next question I have for you then is your favorite moments of the show. And I know you have a
So
ton of them, but
my,
like
my absolute favorite, you guys didn't see. The only Purist people that, well, Jason seen it and Rod seen it. So it was on Friday afternoon, and we're right in the middle. Like when I say right in the middle, I'm talking we're literally halfway done with that big raffle. And all of a sudden, Rod comes walking up because we were up there like under the Patters for Patriots tents. And Rod comes walking up, and he's got a cop with him, like and like Rod looked pretty serious. It was a female cop, and she walks up there, and Rod kind of is like, "Hey, when you guys got a second, like she has something she needs to say." And so I kind of looked up, and I was like, all right, what do you need to say? And then she started going off about people parking out on the road behind the dome, like not in the parking lot, like literally on the road. And Jason kind of tried to tell her, like, hey, that's nobody here. That's all for the swim meet. We saw him in the morning. We literally seen like carloads of kids hopping out of there, running to the swim meet. And she was like, well, it's okay. You guys don't need to make an announcement. I was like, all right, great. And I just like handed her the microphone. I was like, go ahead. And she literally like froze. And I've never seen somebody get so flustered in my life. And I was like, no. And she's like, well, I can't do it. And I was like, well, then that's fine. Then we're not going to say anything. And she's like, no, we need to make this announcement. And I just kept telling her, like, well, if you got something to say, here's a microphone. Go ahead.
Oh, that's awesome.
We sort of had a little stare down for a while. And it was, I've never seen somebody go from I'm here in charge to like, oh my God, so fast. And
Not such a big deal after all.
And she hopped on and made the announcement for her and all this stuff. And then she tried to tell everybody that she's saving them thousands of dollars for not towing their car. And I lowered the microphone. I was like, she just said that if anybody gets towed, it's going to cost them $1,000. And then she kind of came up and backed off. Said, no, I didn't say that. And the whole time, like, I can't even keep a straight face. Jason is dying laughing. And after she walked, he's like, man, she had no idea what she was walking into here, did she?
That is a great story.
Seen it up there, it was great. Other than that, and again, that has nothing to do with the show or nothing to do with anything you guys seen. But I don't know. I'll be honest. I hadn't really even thought about that as far as other. I talked about that a couple days ago. That was I thought the funniest thing that happened the whole time. But probably, if I would have to say, if I have a favorite part, is probably the end of the Smackdown when we do all the announcements and the crowd gets around, and you know how excited people get when they hear their name. I would say that is probably the highlight of the show for me.
Yeah, it's pretty intense moment.
Mm-hmm.
And then you have, and I've been there many a times too, but you have the rest of them standing there going, oh, so here's a funny story for you, Jeff. You might remember this one. When we did the Brawl in the Fall, and I did the hummingbird drinking out of a flower, okay? It was the first year, I think, or whatever. It was in Charlotte, if I'm not mistaken. Does that sound right?
I would have been in Fort Worth.
Fort Worth. Okay, it was in Fort Worth. And the guy had that big rock wall, and the one lady did the fireplace that she basically brought the entire fireplace and put it together like a puzzle, And so I'll never forget, I'm sitting there, the ego of the Purist here, and I'm sitting there, and you guys call third place and you call second place, and I'm like, well, it's mine. If I haven't been called yet, it's clearly mine. So literally when you start announcing, I stand up. I don't know if you ever saw this or ever even noticed. I stood up and I was like, it's not my name. They didn't call me. What the hell? How did they not call me? I was devastated. I was like, you got to be kidding me. But it was so funny because I was that egotistical back then that I really thought clearly I won because I'm not third or second. And no, it was nowhere near me. I don't even I probably placed last place for all I know.
I don't have the exact numbers from then, and again, all I can say is we have nothing to do with the voting. My only part in that was creating the stage and tallying the votes. But that was the year that Ellie Ellis won, I believe, that year. I'm trying to think what the order was. Do you remember I feel like Rachel won.
Rachel got third
with that melting Rubik's Cube.
The giant rock mountain got second, and I think the fireplace got first, which that's what irritated me because I was like, all they did was make all these pieces and put it together there. They didn't actually do anything there. Like we always joke about the rules of what can you do when you're on site. The rock wall formation, he did all the rock wall formations before he got there and just pieced it together and filled in the gaps. I was so mad that these guys came in with half of this thing already done and all they had to do was finish it. And I was like, this is not fair at all. And I walked in there with 0 and threw down on that floor. And that's why I've always been adamant about that through every time we've done this together.
That was a really good year. That was Adrian Garcon is the guy you're talking about that did that whole grotto thing.
Yes, we became great friends after that too. And
I
we
haven't
joked
seen him
about
in a
this
long
after.
time. I haven't talked to Ellie Ellis in a long time either. But Rachel did that really cool thing, and then Corey Hanneman. We were talking just at the show last week. You remember he did that thing with all the they made like those palm leaf like lounge chairs out of GFRC, and they had all those iPads on the wall that were like supposed to talk to each other and all this crazy stuff, and it was super super cool. He was just I didn't even realize a couple of the things that their plan was to make like a bunch of those palm leaf chairs, and I guess they broke the mold on the first one, so that one was that, and then he struggled trying to get those iPads talking to each other, and it was such a great time. But he had a really really cool display. It was just one of those things that they kind of like were fussing with it all the way down to the very end. And man, I'd love to go back and like actually, I don't know if I can still find this anywhere. I'm sure I've got it somewhere, but I would like to actually see how people placed that year, because I honestly I don't even remember, like other than the top 3, I don't remember.
Of course not. I mean, nobody else does either, really. And I understand that too. Like it changes everything, because it's the priority is the awards, nobody else. Like, and that's the thing. You get to watch everybody else in the background just go, well, and just start walking away, and it's over. The crazy thing about those moments is as soon as that award is done, we're done. We're done. We don't need to hang out anymore other than to say goodbye. Like, it's a weird feeling to go from all of this work and all of this anxiety and all of this stuff that you have to do at one time, and then all of a sudden it's like, see ya, have a good day, and it's over.
Yeah.
Very abrupt.
It's a very weird feeling, as many times as I've done it.
Well, I gotta say, when we've done things like that in the past, we've never done an actual judge thing. The artistry in concrete was very different. It wasn't judged. You're kind of hanging out to the end. There is no like the finale of that is just the show's over. Like everybody
Yep.
leaves. There isn't kind of that like final moment. And I'll be honest, I think it's good. I like how we do that. I think having that final moment is a good thing. I get it. It's a little bit of emptiness afterwards. But
No, I
it's
agree with you. Yeah,
have the
it's
whole
just
show
it
kind
is
of
what it
culminate
is.
to that moment right there. And it's
Right.
funny how you said that about when you call third and then you call second. I got a feeling that, well, first of all, I think that was a pretty normal reaction that you had on that. I think most people have that feeling when they get there. Don't get me wrong, there might be certain cases where somebody's wasn't even trying to win or something. But I gotta tell you, this year we called the second and third, and I got a feeling that there was a handful of people that anybody's name could have been called there, and any of them would have been deserving of it. So it was a really good. Lewis says he knew, in his mind that was his, but I got a feeling there's a few others that really thought the same thing, and I would have too if I was in their shoes.
I was going to say, no, we all think it is, no matter what, to your point.
Yeah.
That's why I made the joke of I stood up thinking obviously it was me, and it wasn't anywhere near that. That's exactly what happens to all of us. There's nothing, I mean, of course, because you have to have a little bit of ego to be willing to throw this out there and do this. And so there's that pride, and there's that assumption that people finally got it. They understood what you did, and they believed in you, and they voted for you. And again, none of this is negative. It's reality. It doesn't matter what you're doing, what sport you're doing, what event you're doing, what competition you're doing. All of these we all go through this no matter what we do in life. I mean, even getting a job. And, here's a joke for you if you ever told you this, Jeff. But when I first started working for Concrete Mystique, there was 20 people in a room interviewing for this one job. Not only was it one job, but they actually said, we're going to hire 2 people for 2 weeks. And after 2 weeks, one person keeps their job. So you have to decide either to quit your job and go for it and get that job, or you don't have a job and you have a job for 2 weeks. Same thing happened with ballroom dancing too. When I first started ballroom dancing, I literally went into a class and they said, we're going to do a class for 2 weeks. And at the end of 2 weeks, either you got to learn for free or you're the one that got the job. It's a crazy feeling, but everybody else, it's no different than this competition. You work for it, you struggle for it, you hope for it, you're determined. And, it's going to be shattering for anything we do in life, but it's just one more example of the things we go through.
For sure.
I got a question for you, Jeff. How many more voters were there this year compared to last year? I know the attendance was slightly different, maybe, But in comparison, do you have those numbers?
I
Did
don't
more
know
of a
the exact
percentage vote?
number of that. I believe there was over 100 more this year than there was
Okay.
last year. It's probably closer to 150, but I don't want to oversell it. But yeah, it was well over 100 more people that voted this year than there were last year, and that's kind of done on a point system, sort of to eliminate ties and make it fair for everybody. And so basically, you get so many points for a first place vote. You get so many points for a second place vote, and so many points for a third place vote. So whenever we like mention the amount of points, that's not necessarily how many votes. That's how many points they got. But yeah, it was definitely substantially better this year, or more this year. It was great last year too, but yeah, it was definitely more.
Cool.
Well, to that same point, what happens if there is a tie? Because we were close this year. We were what, 30
Yeah.
points off, you said?
It was less than 30 points. I'll be honest. I was sitting there looking at that paper as I was about to say that, and I was trying to do some backwards math in my head, and I was like landing on either 27 or 28. So I just went with under 30 because I didn't want to get called out later for saying that I had it wrong. But yeah, it was a narrow margin. So
Wow.
we're talking, few more first place votes for one team, few less for another one. Things can change fast. But yeah, we've never had a tie. It is possible mathematically, but it would be incredibly hard for there to ever be a tie in this. And if that happens, that's something we should probably talk about and have a contingency plan for that, because we've never really thought about that before. Because again, the way that the point system works that we have set up, it would be really, really tough to ever end up on a tie.
Yeah, yeah. Well, that's why I thought about that before because it was so close that,
Yeah.
it could happen.
Well, I got an
I want to say
idea.
last year,
If
like
there ever
second and
is a
third were
tie,
separated by like, I don't know. It was also a slim margin. It might have even been less points than that. I don't remember off the top of my head, but it was one of those things. If there was only like 3 or 4 teams, then the possibility of a tie would be a lot higher. But being that 8 teams, it spreads things out. Everybody gets some first place. Everybody gets some second place, third place, and it really all kind of works itself out. I have an
the
idea
team
though, Rick.
captains would have to do a wheelbarrow race if it ever came down to a tie.
Oh, yes.
That'd be the
I love
tiebreaker.
that. Okay. So write that one
No.
down. Write that one down. And then that's option
Rick-
one.
Rick just
After
doesn't want
next
to be
year.
in that boat to have to run it.
No, that's my
Well.
point. Don't do that to me.
The rules are the rules. The rules are the rules.
I'll just bow out at that point.
I was going to say that we see who could shotgun a beer the quickest would be an option.
Yeah,
or,
that's
you
more
know,
Rick's style.
I might have a chance on that one, except for the beer part.
oh yeah, well you can go with wine if you want.
I know, that's why I was thinking. I was like, that'd be
These have to
funny.
be different amounts.
That'd be rough.
One thing I would never want to put myself in the position, or even ourselves, would be that we would sort of like make that final call, and if in the event of a tie, we would call the winner. I really don't want to have anything to do with that part of it. But we know that this is something that we've talked about for the future, is maybe having keeping the same attendee vote the way it is, but then also maybe having a couple expert judges that their vote counts for like a certain percentage of it. And again, that I will say that in the brawl in the fall, that is how we did it, and it was all the criteria for the expert voters. I don't remember how many, if there was 2 or 3 of them, but they had to be at the show, obviously, where they can walk around in person the whole time. They couldn't just show up at a certain moment. They had to see the beginnings and the end of it, and then they also had to be in the Hall of Fame. What was the other criteria for that? And so that worked well, because it sort of set the stage for all the competitors. That they felt really good about it, because they were getting judged by somebody who was in the Hall of Fame, not just by some random person, because those expert judge counted for like half of the entire vote, the way we had that system set up, and then the attendees accounted for the rest of them. So I don't know, that's an interesting thought. I know me and you, Rick, we've talked about that. We brought that up internally, and so yeah, I don't know, we'll see what happens on that. I will say that it does work really, really well the way that we do it right now, and I just remember back in the brawl in the fall, it was literally paper ballots, and then we would sit there at the end of it. It took us like 2 hours to like go.
I forgot about that.
Ballots, and we sort of used that same point system, and so it took like 2 or 3 of us would go down there. Somebody be entered into a spreadsheet so it could tally it all out. Then we had to bring the expert vote into it and try to marry the two numbers together, and it took a long time. We can literally see it in real time right now. Most people don't know this, but I have a spot I can go behind the scenes with the boys back in the lab back there, and I can literally peek in on it at any certain time and see who's in the lead. It's really cool.
Did you know who was in the lead when we talked the night the late night we were in your room?
I did, but
Okay.
I also knew that there was a very small amount of votes that had come in at that point because basically, the people that did that on Thursday were only people that weren't going to be there on Friday. So, yes, I did know who was in the lead, but I also knew that it was going to change. It could change drastically over the next day because that's when generally most of them come in.
That's good to know. I was going to ask that question too. Cool. A question I have for you too is last year we had a little bit of a cheating issue with
We did.
votes.
I don't
Was
even know
that
if I want
resolved?
to call it cheating, just exactly, but kind of, yeah, kind of.
Sure.
Shenanigans.
Yeah. Trying to manipulate the system. We'll say allegedly manipulating the system. How's
Yeah,
that
and,
word?
and, and don't get me wrong, a lot of that's our fault because it was something we
Well, I was
never
going to
addressed
ask
up
you, but
front.
did you correct that for this year? Is what I was
We
asking.
did. We did both with the it was written in the rules. We were very upfront about that when everybody got there, but also our IT team has some nice sneaky ways behind the scenes to make sure that they can. Because I will say that even though that did happen last year, they had it sniffed out in like under an hour. They could tell something was wrong. They dug into it and they could see that these votes were not coming from in the building. They were coming from other locations, and so it was really easy to see like where the vote or who they were voting for. I told the story as far as like who was sending out the code. So
Were
Yeah, we're
those
not going
votes
to name
again,
counted,
names.
or were
it
they
was one of those
Were
things
those
that
votes disqualified?
we never thought about. So we never brought it up front. So I can't really fault them for trying because it was something that we never talked about up front.
And yes, they were removed, Tony.
Okay,
I'm
I
sorry.
wasn't
What was
sure.
that?
He was asking if you guys removed them last year, and
We
I said
did.
yes. I remember you did.
We
Okay,
did. They can tell where it's coming from. They knew that they weren't legit from in the building, and yes, they removed those. And it's hard to don't get me wrong. Did something slip through the cracks here and there? It's hard to say, but yeah, they're pretty good with that stuff. It's a little different than 2015.
I think we need to go back to paper, and I think we need to have judges.
No,
But
no,
the
we can
judges
go
would
back
not
to
be a
paper,
bad
but I'm not
idea.
gonna. You guys don't even know. Like I remember the year in it was in Indianapolis, and I'm sitting there like literally, I'm like counting every single one by hand, like on paper, and John Bell is like just dying to know where he stacked up at. And he's literally just sitting there staring at me the whole time over the front of my computer. And I just keep looking up. I'm like, Jeff, like, get out of here. Like, this is not helping me. This is not speeding things up. You're making me nervous. Now I'm think I should have to go back and like recheck a bunch of them just to make sure. But he would just keep coming back and looking around. So, yeah, I honestly, at that point, I wanted to like have like a room somewhere that we could just go in the back and just get away from everybody. Cause we're like literally doing it out there, like on the main table. And
wow,
yeah, the QR codes work awful good now.
at least I was nice enough not to do something crazy like that. All right, Tony, do you got another one for him?
Let's switch over to the wheelbarrow race briefly. How many total races were there? Do you know that number? How many total participants?
Right. So I want to say, and again, I'm sorry, I don't have a lot of this stuff like hard numbers in front of me.
Approximate.
It got brought up. Yeah, I want to say it was
We are going to
somewhere in
hold
the
this against
neighborhood
you.
of
Don't worry about
2
it.
to 250, something like that.
Okay.
Because there was 30, the 32 top times moved on, and so yeah, I wanted to say that it was well over 200. It might not have been quite been 250, but there was quite a few.
Very
That's
good.
nice. I mean, that's a pretty good. So overall, you guys thought the wheelbarrow race was a success, if we will.
Oh, it was a hit. It was an absolute hit. Everybody loved it. We loved it. Now that's coming back. There is no question about that. And some of this, like when you were just Tony, what you were saying about how many people, like we didn't really know what to expect on this being the first year. So we kind of honestly, the way we came up with our 32 man bracket for the final on Friday is we sort of sat down and had an estimate of how long we thought like each race was going to take or how soon, like how many races. We figured we could start a new race every 5 minutes. So we just did the math and figured out how much time we'd have on Friday morning and sort of did the other math backwards. And we came up with a 32 man final. Now, as it went, people actually got through the track a lot quicker than we thought they would. We were running races a lot faster than every 5 minutes. So we probably could have added more, but I will say if anybody's ever put together a bracket like that,
Mm.
it's like you can't just add 4. You can't just add 6. You have to make the math of it all work. And so sometimes, depending on how the whole bracket system works, adding more might mean you have to move all the way to 64 or something like that. And so it can be kind of challenging when you get in the bracket style. So, I think next year we're talking about doing maybe like a Thursday bracket and a Friday bracket, as in prelims in the morning. That'll create the final bracket for Thursday. Whoever wins the final on Thursday will end up racing the winner of the Friday bracket in a very final grand champion race. Basically how we did the final this year. So that's something we talked about. That way, one thing we learned is that there was, people who couldn't be there Thursday. They could only be there Friday, and they didn't really get to participate in it. And so we wanted to kind of solve that problem. But man, it was so great. We just want more of it. And so we were trying to figure that out. Also, Isaiah Milborn's story. I don't know if you guys seen that. He was on his way.
Yeah, I did. Yeah.
His car broke down somewhere in Western Indiana. And he was even like watching his GPS thinking, I'll be able to make it there by 4. I can get a race in. I'll be able to make it there. Well, it turns out, like with traffic and everything, he didn't get there until like 5:30. So everybody was gone. Show was over. So yeah, I don't know. We'll see what happens, but we'll probably add a second bracket to it next year, and then the 2 bracket winners meet for the grand champion.
Well, and I talked to Austin while I was there because he was working with Joseph, so I was talking to the kid all the time while he was winning. He raced 5 times on Friday. Is that right?
Yeah, because you think about it, you start with 32, and then you go 16, and then you go 8, and then you go 4, and then there's all the way to 2. So yeah, that would have been his 5th race on Friday. Would have been the
he
final.
Was exhausted, I'm sure. I mean, that's a lot.
Sure.
That's another thing to look at too. Is that's a lot in one day when you're huffing with all that weight and everything, and then you got Jason going, let's add another 50 pounds. That's crazy.
And then the advantage of which day you win. If you're the winner of Thursday's brackets, you get to rest Friday morning. So that's a little bit of an advantage there. The Friday bracket's got to race all the way through with no rest. But that may be the point of it. Hey, if you're not here Thursday, you're going to have to pay by racing all day if you want to be in it Friday.
Well, and the good thing is you guys gave the final was like an hour and a half later. So they did have a lot of time to recover.
A little bit of rest.
There is a little bit of a break, but Cap's got a good point there that, the best strategy would be get there on Thursday and win the Thursday bracket because, that way you got all night to rest. Where on Friday, you'll have a little bit of time, but it's not a ton. And I was thinking that too, as I was, when we were over there at the final, that's something I never even really thought about until we were sitting there. I was like, oh wow, like he has run a lot of races today. This isn't like yesterday where you literally run one and you get your time in and that's it. And he was on a Smackdown team, so they were busy with other stuff too.
Yeah. I mean, it's a crazy story because he was all over the place. That's a lot to take on, and try to finish your Smackdown at the same time.
And he didn't even know about this whole thing. That was one of the questions I had for him last night was like if he was like, how excited he was and how long he'd been like ready to go for it. He's like, dude, I didn't even know it was happening. I just showed up and I seen the track and somebody told me what we're doing over here. So yeah, he didn't even know about it beforehand.
That's crazy. Were there any major injuries at all?
I wouldn't call major. So I know that the worst, and again, I only witnessed one myself, not even an injury, but one guy fall off the plank, which was actually Josh Rabella. But he sort of seen he was going down. He, hopped out of it. Nothing bad happened. I'm not even sure that he got wet, but I don't know his name. We talked to him on one of our live streams during the show, but he works for Rebecca Fuscardo.
Yeah, right.
Well, one of their crew. There's a video out online right now that Justin put out that's been pretty popular. And if you watch that, you'll see what I mean, that it looks pretty bad. So when we talked to him on Friday, he was like, oh, yeah. He's like, my ribs hurt. He said his nose was bleeding. He was completely soaked. He had to go back to the hotel and change clothes. And, I think he got beat up pretty good.
Yeah, the semifinals, the one dude fell into the water and kind of flipped out a little bit and luckily didn't land too bad. But I knew that guy really well too. And that was it's crazy. We joked about it in the beginning about the water and I was still like, I don't know. It just seems like it's not going to do that. But no, there was plenty of people that kept falling into the water because I was right there. I got to see more races other than Jason probably because I was right there the whole time doing my demonstration. So I kept hearing everything and seeing everything and hear the crowd go, oh, and jump out and see someone getting out of the water. It was pretty funny.
Yeah, you were
people getting stuck in the gravel. Yeah, People got stuck in the gravel so much. Walking behind it to like where the ladies were selling drinks and stuff like that. First of all, they had some of the best seats in the house until the finals because I got to watch every one of them come down and go around and go back. But two, you walk back there and gravel just goes flying at you everywhere, every single time they turned around that corner. And then you see everybody like brooming it back to the middle or back to the side of it and everything like that. But there was gravel all over the place back there because they just kept flying out every time they came around that corner and got stuck and started kicking. It was hilarious to watch.
Yeah, you had a great best seat in the house back there. I'll be honest, I didn't experience any of what you just talked about because I was never back there for long enough to see all this stuff happen. But and I know, Tony, I know you were saying the same thing about like doesn't matter where you're at in there, what just happened when you hear that crowd.
Oh yeah,
yes,
yeah. And for the gravel, I ran the race. It was not so much that the gravel was loose, but the fines of the gravel seemed to work their way down to the smooth concrete floor. And when you would try to get traction with your feet, you were just kicking, like Rick said, you would kick gravel and dust every which way, trying to push through that. But I heard the best method would be to keep the weight in the back because I saw Austin and a few guys just roll right through it like nothing. So there must have been a great technique to that, but I didn't have it. I got real jammed up in it.
I just realized as you were explaining that what we have to have done, it has to happen next year. There has to be one race. It's not important other than we need a race between Jason and Jeff.
Oh, for sure.
You're not the first person that said that.
Why didn't that happen this year? That has to happen.
Yeah, so that has to happen.
That got brought up, and I don't remember who brought that up. A few people brought that up online, and we talked about that. I actually told Jason that, and also there was supposed to be a race between myself and Emil, and honestly, we talked about it on Monday, and Jason looked over at both of us, and he's like, "You guys sure about this? We don't need no twisted ankles this week." And we were like, "Yeah, good point." So we decided not to do it.
Well, it would be at the end on Friday, right before the finals. It's a race between the two of you, and then we have the finals. I mean, at that point, if you're limping for another hour, the show's over.
Good point. I will obviously do it. It wasn't. I got no problem with it. There's also been this little challenge that's been thrown out. My God, it goes back like 5 years. Nick Lang has been talking about doing a metallic epoxy throwdown just on a 4x8 sheet. And he's challenged me this like 5 years ago. And I keep telling him, yeah, sure, let's do it. But we just have not made it happen yet. And of course, it's not a clear-cut winner like a wheelbarrow race. But
I can see to your same point coming up with a triathlon, if you will, of decorative concrete. You have the Smackdown, you have the wheelbarrow race, but these are just like you said on a panel, like a 4x8 sheet, and you do a metallic, you do an overlay, and you do a vertical or something like that. Like something simple that we do in the industry, or, like 3 little things we have to do, and you have, 5 minutes to do each one or something like that. That would be fun. That would be a cool one.
And then somebody has to judge it. And I, honestly, when Nick brought this up, God, like I said, it was before we were even doing the Smackdown. It was just something, I don't know, something he thought was going to be cool, and I was all about it. And it hasn't happened yet, but we'll see. It's hard to keep me or Nick in one place long enough to even do anything like that, to be honest with you.
It would only give him that much focus if you finally gave him the chance to do it. And sadly, I think he would kick the crap out of you. No offense.
Oh, I know that. That wasn't even in question. I just thought it was going to be funny. Same as the race. Like I don't.
How about the two of us take him on together?
I got a feeling. I don't know. Maybe me and Jason might be a decent race. I'm not sure. I think that he'd probably still beat me, just because I just know he's going to load those bags faster than I am. It's just there's no way I can. I certainly can't pick up 3 of them like Austin was doing, but even 2 is hard to pick up at a time, and like. They're just hard to grab onto. It's only 100 pounds, but it's hard to get 100 pounds up in there when
Did he pick 3 up at a time? I thought he only picked 2 up at a time.
In the final, he went 3, and I even had talked to him, and I was like, I know your secret. I was like, I've been watching like what little bit I could watch. You're loading 2 at a time. That's why you're the fastest. And
he puts them in a stack on top of each other, so he was ready.
And he said he was
then
the
other guy learned that in the finals too. He finally figured that out. But the problem was when he loaded those first 2, he knocked it over. because you're trying to go too fast. And Austin knew exactly how to drop them in, not throw them in. And the guy lost immediately. There was no chance that guy had as soon as it started because he already dropped his wheelbarrow. By the time he even put it back up, Austin's already off and going. And it was over at that point.
Taken like a complete spill or wipe out or something somewhere to even have a chance. And
his only chance was if Austin wrecked.
Yeah.
I even
or got stuck in the gravel.
Telling me that he's thinking about going to 3. I was like, "Are you sure you want to get greedy on that?" And he looked at me and he was. I thought he was listening to me for a second, but no. When it came down to it, he got greedy, went all 3. But it worked. It completely worked.
Dude, because wasn't that the fastest time of the entire show? On top of that,
it was. Yep.
Unreal. That's the, just like watching the Olympics. Really, with that kind of moment, it's amazing when it's like. Not only did they get the gold medal, but they also got the best time ever. I mean, it's just, you can't make this shit up. It's awesome.
Definitely a cool first event, and looking forward to seeing where it goes next year. I'm looking forward to see the alteration to the track.
Yeah.
Well, I'll tell you what, you can be a part of that if you want.
Is that what you're going to do? Everybody's going to come up with their own designs, and whoever wins the design gets an award?
Not a bad idea.
I mean, we hadn't talked about anything like that, but we're always looking for input. And, a lot of the features that were there just came from, comments on social media or things people, some people heard about that. They'd call us and say, do this, do this, do this. Ben Bass had some good input. Chris Kroll, Emil had a lot to do with it. But yeah, Tony, we'd love to hear your input. And I can't guarantee that it's going to happen, but we'd love to hear the ideas.
I was with Emil when he was putting the design together for Jason. I was actually with him when Jason and him were talking on the phone, trying to figure out how to do this better because his original one was way too skinny. And Jason was like, no, we need more room. They're too close to each other. There'll be too many injuries. They got to have more room. And Emil's like, why? There's plenty of room to do it this way. And I'm like, and so we literally got a tape measure out and we were measuring, trying to visualize what Jason was asking for. So as funny as it is, no, I had nothing to do with the actual design, but I was there through the process for a little while, and that was pretty funny. I was enjoying it. Still confused as to what in the world was going on because I didn't understand it exactly, but I was like, okay, sure, man. And so, yeah, we just laid it out and visualized it for us. So let's talk about the Smackdown for a minute. So let's start with, do you think that the top 3 were the top 3? Let's just start there. If you were voting and you had all the power in the world and you were the judge and there was no other people voting, is that what you would have voted as the winners?
You seriously have to ask me this? Right.
Of course I have to. It's Captain T and the Purist. It's not
I would say this, and I said this last year too, that I feel like the winner was the winner in my mind. If I did have to vote, that I do feel like the winner was the winner. Man, that dragon fireplace that thing was as kick-ass as anything could be. Obviously Keith's project, it'd be hard for you to say that any of those didn't belong in the top 3. But I also thought that there was a couple other ones that I could have made a pretty good argument for too. So, I'm not here to say how I would rank them down the line. Again, I have to stay out of that part of it. But
we don't want to get it out of
winner was great.
I'm not asking for all 8. Yeah, just the top 3.
It was how it should have been. And then the rest of them, absolutely. But you could swap a couple of them around, and I would have still agreed with it.
Okay, so in your head, that you still think the truck was better than the Dragon?
In my opinion, yeah, I think the truck won. Yep.
Okay, that's cool.
I don't like to use the word better, but yes, to me, that I thought that one was the winner.
It's all right. We're all going to call you out on it. Don't worry about it. You're going to start getting emails and texts as soon as they hear that.
Probably already texted me, right? Well, this isn't live, but Cody's he's already texted me like, what the heck, dude?
It's a great thing about this not being live in case you go, wait, we got to delete that. I can't say that. Anything can happen.
So I'm curious. I want to ask you two the same question because you guys can actually give your honest opinion here, and of course I can too. But again, this is part of from my angle is I try to not to show any bias in any of this. And that's not even bias. Of course, it's just my opinion on it. But I think everybody did great. They were all winners.
I had this conversation with Rocky right before the end of the show. and he came up with his camera and a little microphone for me, and we're talking for a minute. He's interviewing me, and then he goes, "So, what are your thoughts on this Smackdown?" And I'm like, "What? Like, seriously? You really want me to tell you what I actually think?" And he's like, "Yeah." And I'm like, "I don't know if I should do this." I was like, "Okay," and I went off. He's just like,
Is he recording
"Okay."
this?
Yes, he did record
Did he
it.
record that?
Yes,
Oh,
he
nice.
did.
We've got that. We've got that.
I don't care. It's all right. I don't mind. People
So
want
what was your ranking, Rick?
I think we have to go with you first, Captain T.
I'll go. I have no issue talking about it. I had Cody winning it. I've said from the beginning I thought they were going to come out over the top, and they actually exceeded my expectations. I loved what they did. I loved the entire project. I had Chris at number 2 with his, and a good way to look. And then I had Lewis at 3 with the truck. And the way I separate these are fantasy art and practical art. And so something like the truck and the dragon, those are in the fantasy side. The practical art side of it is Chris's project as well as Dave Rebello's last year. And so those seem to be the two categories of when you're entering this competition. What are you going to do? Something that's a fantasy art piece or something that's a practical art piece. But that's how I had it. And very close, of course, not to take anything away from anybody, but that's the way I would have seen it.
Yeah, and honestly, I did the same thing. If any of those that had ended up the winner, I would have still said, like, yes, absolutely, that was deserving. But, again, I try to stay neutral. But I will say that the truck was my favorite. Now, it's funny that you bring that up because last year the practical piece won.
Yeah.
And so this was a lot of the talk last fall was like, oh, we need to go practical. Well, turns out that the fantasy piece won this year. So I think that that's cool because I think that keeps it more in a nice little motion, as in always one, always the other. Obviously, we love seeing both, so that makes that they're both relevant.
Well, that's a good point because if it didn't go that way this year, we would lose one way or the other. Like we're going to find out next year, is there going to be more fantasy or more realistic because of that same reason? And it's going to be an interesting shift each year, possibly, or we're going to start going one direction for a while, unless you start coming up with ways to fix that, or not fix it. I'm not saying it's a problem, but adjust things so that it's not all going one direction or the other, honestly. Because it could go bad either way or good. It could be that everybody's just doing realistic stuff and that's only all they're going to do, or all fantasy all the time if we're not careful.
Yeah.
No, I agree. What we don't want is all one of the. We love the mix, and it'd be nice. That's why it's cool if they keep flopping back and forth in the mix days. Then I think that's good. So, but Rick, you have to give us your ranking. You're not gonna get out of this.
I'm not gonna try to get out of it at all. Let me get my list here.
I have a good excuse why I could get out of it, but you don't.
I completely agree with you. I have no issue if they don't like it. I don't care. What are you going to do? Not talk to me ever again? It's okay. It's an opinion. Again, we're in a society right now where opinions don't matter, only facts do. And if you're not speaking the truth, don't talk to me. So crap, can't stand it anymore. I want to go back to when we got to debate all the time. And it was okay to have our own point of view. And it was okay to not like something. If someone doesn't like my artwork, it doesn't offend me. Yeah, I'm disappointed. I wish everybody would love what I do. But if they don't like it, I'm not going to cry about it. The biggest issue to this exact same point is, and this is where my kind of points go to it all too, is I either want you to love it or hate it. And we've talked about this many times before, Jeff. Either love it or hate it. If you have no emotion to it whatsoever, then you epically failed. That's the worst feeling in the world, is when nobody cares at all. I want you to hate it because you're going to talk about it. You're going to go back and talk about it. Think about how many shows get all this popularity because everybody hates it, and they watch it more because they hate it. I would rather have that and have more discussion on the hatred than have zero discussion at all.
Yeah. Indifference is one of the worst outcomes in that case.
The worst. And there was a few of them that were like that, sadly. And I have to be careful how I say that maybe, but I would say that I agree with Captain T over here that the Dragon was the best. not only was the Dragon the best, but I disagree with it even being fantasy. It was functional. It was believable.
Yeah.
I could see someone paying a fortune to have that. One of the things that we all have opportunities to do is show not just our industry, but where this goes in the public, where it goes viral. We have the ability to show Vegas, to show rich people, to show the world, hey, we can go to Disney World and make this incredible fireplace out of a dragon and have it breathing and everything like that, and get opportunities for us to expand our business, expand our capabilities, expand as an artist. So it's great when people do stuff like that, and I hope they get all the attention in the world because of it. That's also why I want to interview them next too, because I want to get them every opportunity possible to get that out there. Because that is something, and it's the same thing with the truck, and the same thing with the Simpsons, same thing with a few of them, but that one particularly, I actually do believe it's not that much different than Dave Rebello's was last year, because I did believe it. No, I wasn't a big fan of the skull on the floor. Like, it was cool, but I think the stepping stones by themselves would have done enough. I don't think it needed to be there. It was clever, but I don't know. I'm not going to say it took away from it, but I didn't understand. It didn't fit, but but that's personal. That's a small little detail. That's one little tiny thing to complain about. The lighting was awesome. I can't say much negative about it, to be honest with you, which reminds me, I got to make a note of the next question after this too. Okay. So that would have been my first place without a question. There's no doubt about it. I kind of put Chris second, to be honest with you, although I do get a kick out of, and this isn't a kids program, so I can say whatever I want, but it was really funny that the shower looked like a cock and balls. And it was squirting out the top of it.
That, to be honest with you.
Oh yeah, go back and look again, and you can't unsee it. Once you see it, you can't unsee it. And when he was coming up with the idea and they were doing testing ahead of time, he showed one to me, and I was like, dude, it looks like cock and balls. And he was like, yeah, it does. We're fixing that. We're not going to do that. No, he did it worse. And he was like, no, it would have been worse if we would have done the first one. I'm like, how? It was blatantly obvious. So that made me laugh. But, not everybody's going to notice that. Like you said, you didn't look at it that way either. But I'm telling you, once you see it again, you cannot unsee it. So, but again, that is a conversation piece. If it really, it's funnier to do that on purpose almost and point out, it just be ridiculous about it just because, again, people are going to be talking about it. But I thought that was hilarious. I put him second because of the realism, because it was something I believed. Yes, I wish he could have done something more to the floor. Him and I talked about that, but he didn't have time for it. He focused on the vertical. And that's fine. And the vertical was fantastic. Again, the rock formations were fantastic. It wasn't just okay. It was on top of everything. It was professional. It was realistic. I was impressed with all of it. I've watched that man grow for a couple years now, and I never saw that coming. When he first started doing vertical, and it wasn't just him, he had a great team together to do that vertical with him. But when he first started doing vertical, I was like, dude, no, it's not you. It's going to take you too long to figure this out. And then he's like trying to sell jobs right away. I'm like, no, just wait. You got to do more practice. And then he went to World of Concrete and did the sculpture with the guy trying to chisel himself out of it. And I was like, no, you're not ready for that, dude. You're not ready. Don't do it. And he did it anyway, and it was fine. Like, again, we all put ourselves out there. It doesn't matter about our ability. We put ourselves out there. It's on us to do that. It's on us to accept the end result and everything like that. But I really thought that he had it. He had what everybody was looking for and asking for. He made a good point to me afterward, though, where he said, maybe it was too expensive. I was not showing to the right market. If I would have had that at a home show where I'm showing it to rich people, that would have been a great home show. Instead, I'm showing it to the contractors that don't have those clients, and does it really come across that way because of it? And I was like, well, yeah, but Rebello's was over the top outside. When you say it that way, his was pretty over the top too. I mean, that was not a cheap patio. That was in a very expensive, elaborate kitchen and everything like that. So, but I still think that there's something to be said about that, and it's not because I'm biased. It's not because he's one of my closest friends and all that kind of stuff, but I really do believe that. Now we get complicated, because now I want to say it's the truck or the Simpsons. And what I really wanted to have happen was they accidentally voted each other out. It's the same idea when you think about elections and everything like that. Too many people were going to vote for one or the other, and so they both lose. That's really what I was expecting to have happen. They both were fantastic. I'm not going to deny they're both fantastic. I don't care. I'm sorry. I don't care. And I'm not going to tell Lewis that when I interview him. Nothing wrong with it. Like, they did a fantastic job. From a technical point of view, they did a fantastic job building a truck. And it really messed everybody else up in the competition. I talked to a lot of people, a lot of the guys, and they were all just like, they brought a freaking truck. What do I do now? They brought a freaking truck. I mean, I've already lost. They brought a freaking truck. You know, and it was like, yeah, they did. Yeah, I don't understand it either. And then their epoxy never dried. That's something I'm going to bring up to Lewis too, because I called him out on that. Because I came in the next day and I walked on it to sign it. He asked us to sign it. And I'm like, quick, quick.
Yeah, it was sticky. It was sticky.
And I said, it's
but see, I give him some credit for pulling that off, even though that happened.
Yeah, all they did was throw dirt on top of it. I mean,
that's what it was supposed to be, a dirt road.
It was pretty innovative.
It was, and there was a lot of details. Like, I'm impressed. I'm extremely impressed. But you asked my opinion, and my opinion is I don't understand why you're doing a concrete truck. I don't get it. You know, is this an episode of Cars? Are you trying to advertise again? What are you advertising this for? Are you trying to get into? And if that is the case, I get it too. Because if you're trying to get into the market for Disney World and amusement parks and stuff like that, yeah, the truck wins. Truck wins over The Simpsons for that reason. Yeah, The Simpsons was cool. Yeah, it was awesome that it was interactive and you got to go in and sit down if you wanted to and take pictures and act like you were in the show. I thought it was clever. Thought it was great, and they did a great job. But to the point, and we talked about this that one night in your room, it's one or the other. You can't have both. They can't be 1 and 2 because you're going to lose the votes one way or the other. Either one's going to win or they're both going to lose because of the way the votes are going to happen on the two of them. So I kind of put them in the same level in the third place. It's like I would have been happy with either one of them. I was still impressed with both of them. They were still great. The preparations were great, all that kind of stuff. You know, there's a point to where I wish sometimes that and I'm ranting for a long time on this. I wish sometimes that we change the rules to you can't start until you get there across the board. But I know that that's almost impossible.
It's been brought up.
You know, and I understand that not everybody understands that too. And I'm not saying that just because that's the way I play the game every single time or anything like that, because you wait. I got a plan this time. Don't change the rules yet on me until after this year.
Everything it's being talked about. And the one reason for it is that it does give people from really far away a glaring disadvantage. For Keith, for example, he literally started with nothing. He got a hold of his phone. They got into town on Saturday. They got a hold of their foam on Sunday. They started carving their foam. They didn't even scratch coat anything until Tuesday when everything started. So they were the major underdog from a time standpoint. And so I don't like limiting to everything has to be done on site because I feel like it limits the projects. Obviously, there couldn't have been a truck. There couldn't have been a dragon fireplace. A lot of that stuff wouldn't have, even some of the stuff that, some of the Simpson stuff would have been really, really hard to accomplish if it all would have had to been done on site, the TV and all that stuff. So I don't like taking it away because I want the projects to be as over the top as they can be. But I will say, as it gets bigger, as it spreads out more nationwide, people coming from farther distances, it does give those people a big disadvantage. So, now some of that, how do you look at that? Like, well, this is just one of those things that I know I'm at a disadvantage and I'm going to have to overcome it. Do I not do it because I'm at that disadvantage? Like, you kind of have to weigh that out. But yeah, it's being talked about.
Well, I think a good point. Actually, I think a good point to that, Jeff, would be to do 1 year saying this year the goal is, or this year the theme is done on site or something like that. Like not every single time, because I agree with you. I don't want to take away from all their opportunities. But at the same time, that could just be a year. Hey, this year, because we've done this enough, we're going to try something different. Now we want to try, you only have this much time and you got to do it on site and see how far they can take it and stuff like that too, like Keith did. Because let's be realistic, his was awesome. Now, knowing what he was going to do ahead of time and knowing what he's capable of doing, and I said this in the pre-show, I thought he was the one to beat and I thought that he was going to do a lot more. He did a great job. It was a pool table. Again, that's a gimmick. It's a pool table. Like, yeah, it's cool. Yeah, it's freaking awesome. Let's make a pool table and play it for 1 hour and then throw it in the dumpster. Yay. But he could have done so much more because we know what he's capable of. And the Eagles were fantastic. Like, he proved it with the Eagles, and that's probably why he got third place. But the background was amazing. The floor was amazing. The idea was all together. It was a pool table. It was a pool
See,
table.
I thought you
It
were
was
going to
all
like
said and
that.
done.
You're just such a pool guy.
Nah, not in a competition. Yes, I wanted to play pool on it and kick everybody's butt, but I stayed away. If I would have brought my own sticks, I would have been in there playing at the end of the day. I thought about it a lot, but I stayed away from there. But that was the only thing to me was like, okay, what's your market in this one? What are you trying to go for? What are you trying to accomplish? And I know what he's capable of, and I just think that he sold himself short being in a rush and trying to find a different thing to do. He should have just stuck with what he had already told everybody anyway, because it still would have killed it.
I do agree that the original one was super cool. I think a couple things on that. Somebody did end up with that. Like, he did build that thing structurally to last, and
Good.
they did
That's
that
great to
entered the
hear.
raffle, and they came and got it on Saturday. So the pool table is safe. It's still living. It is
I
not
can only
in the
imagine
dumpster.
how much that weighed.
What's that?
How much did that weigh?
Oh, I don't know. I'm not sure. It was all forklift work for us, so I don't know. We never tried
No
to lift it
shit.
by hand or anything like that. But the other thing that was funny, I don't know if any of you saw this, but when I was doing the final walk around, and there was about a half hour of time left before the work could stop, so we just kind of like to go, everybody, do one little final like hype while people still have a little bit of time left to vote. And so, again, for the truck, it was like, let's start it up. For the Simpsons thing, we had them sit on the couch. Basically, show us all your tricks at this point. We've got a crowd, show us all your tricks. So when I get over to Keith's area, he was like gluing some of the felt in the back of the pool table, and I walked up and I was like, all right, dude, like, are we ready? Like, I want to see the first break. Are we ready for a break? He's like, yeah, we can do it. We can do it. So he racks the balls up. I'm standing over there at the end of the table with him, and like, just at the last second, he looks up at me and he like hands me the pool cue. He's like, you do it. And I was like, I didn't even really want to. I was like, just do it. But the other part of me was like, no, just roll with it. Just go with it. So I handed him the mic, and I've been playing a little bit more pool the last year than I used to in the past, and so I was feeling pretty good. And I get out there. I'm normally like super cautious on breaks. Like, the most important thing, hit that ball, the center of the ball, dead center. Don't worry about how hard you hit it. Just hit it clean. Well, I'm thinking like, I've been getting a little bit better recently. Like, I'm going to give this thing a ride. We got a crowd. And dude, like, I almost missed the damn ball. Like, I literally hit the side of the cue ball. I think I like made it even hit like two balls that were even in the rack. And so it was like the most embarrassing thing that I was like, part of me was like, man, I hope nobody's seen that. And then I look up and there's like 30 cell phones like literally on top of me. And I'm like, yeah, I suppose
Okay,
that
if
ship
anybody
is good,
watches
so we
this,
better
I
just
want
roll
one of
with
those
it.
videos.
Yeah, we'll just use it as. So if anybody has those, please. I haven't seen it yet,
phenomenal.
but it had to look terrible.
Yeah, that's hilarious. And then from there, it just kind of gets into that. It's complicated because they tried. I know the feeling. They were just not underprepared, but they didn't think how hard this competition really is going to be, and their expectations were not there. And so, I can go into the details on the rest of them if you really want me to, but it's going to be that, they just really kind of, weren't there. And it's tough because they were outclassed. It wasn't that they did a terrible job. They were just outclassed. The Isaiah Converse's one was fun with the slide. Everybody, I mean, that was a kid oriented one. They were trying to get it for the kids and try to get those parents to vote for them because all the kids were having so much fun. And that was a really cool idea. I feel like last year when they got third place, I feel like they won because of the dragon. Honestly, they won because of the dragon. The rest of their work was good. It was good, and I think that they kind of had the same thing this year where it was good. It was good, but they just fell short because they didn't have something like that. The alligator wasn't enough. The water wasn't enough. The slide wasn't enough. It was great. It just wasn't enough for some reason. And I just, but they tried. Hats off for trying. It looked great. Mm-hmm. I really didn't think people were going to be sliding on it by the end of it. I didn't think it was going to be ready. I was impressed that they even got to the point to make that slide in 2-3 days. I mean, that is pretty impressive, to be honest with you.
I gave it a try, Tony.
Yeah, I think I did. Pretty sure I did. I liked it. It was cool.
part of their thought process too was back to real versus fantasy, and they felt like their one the year before was a lot more fantasy because of the dragon, and it was a little bit more cartoonish, and that was part of their process, or part of their thought process was, last year real won, so let's try to create a real back world or a real backyard grotto. And so yeah, I think that was part of why they left that part out of it. And again, this is all part of the whole thing, is you don't know which way it's going to go.
Yep.
You don't. And I
even,
think they needed
if you
more
go
fantasy
real,
for that reason.
you have to nail real if you're going to go real. And Chris nailed it like to the T.
Oh yeah.
And it still wasn't good enough. So
That's
And
the thing
then-
about this. It's just any one of these guys, like especially Chris, he could win that competition with that same project 3 years in a row, depending on who else is in there with him. You know, that's my opinion.
Right.
yeah.
Right.
And we're also talking about how people feel that day, where these are
Yep.
literally, whatever it is, 1,200
Well,
people walking around, and like you don't know what they're feeling that day.
to the same point too, if Dave Rebello entered this year, he wouldn't have won.
Yeah.
True.
So timing is everything. So,
No,
that's another good point too.
There is
I thought-
definitely some luck involved with the whole thing for sure. Obviously, you have to be very skilled to win, but you can be incredibly skilled and still not win just due to luck.
Right.
Yep.
Depending on the competition. I thought that Tim Dykman's was pretty cool. It took me a while to understand Tim's. I knew what he was trying to do, and he was struggling with some things that were going on, trying to like the details he was trying to do. But he's one of the ones too that was like, I thought I had a great idea till a freaking truck rolled in. What do you do after that? Like, I already knew I lost. He's one of the ones. He wasn't the only one, but he was like, I lost instantly. So what do I do now? And, and that's not how you look at it. You got to go for it. And he did. His vertical work was okay. His sculpture was okay. And he even said that was a last minute decision to put that in there.
Yeah, because it was originally a big baseball and it broke, I think, on the way there or something like that. So that.
Oh, is that what happened?
The actual water, I believe it was supposed to be an actual baseball that was like a bubbler for the fountain. And yeah, I know that something happened on the way there. It didn't make the trip, and so he had to kind of come up with that like little piece of the baseball just sort of on the fly. And so a lot of that was not part of the original plan.
Yeah, because the hats looked pretty good. I mean, they were, he did a great job. Again, no knocking, not shutting it down. But the one thing, well, first of all, I talked to him Friday night after everybody had left. I spent the night hanging out with him and getting to know him, which was a lot of fun. The funny thing was, like, first of all, we talk about how I can't believe how many people have come up to me and said they've been listening to the podcast. And I'm like, really? And I was trying to figure out how the numbers don't make any sense to me and all that kind of stuff. And so I was talking to him, and all of a sudden, out of nowhere, he's like, okay, well, since I've gotten to know you, because he didn't think I was going to be the person how nice I was and stuff like that. He's like, I listened to your show and you're not like that on the show. And I was like, well, it's a show. I mean, what do you, the more you get to know me, the more I do get closer to that show. But he was like, yeah, I wasn't happy with what you said about me in your pre-show. And I'm like, what did I say? And he was like, man, I've done so much more work and all this other, like, if you would have gone farther down in my social media, you would have seen like these other projects. And I'm like, yeah, I had 45 minutes to look at all 8 contestants before Captain T and I did the show. I had 5 minutes to go through your social media to find some stuff. And the stuff was cool. And I thought I was fairly accurate on everything. And he did engrave like I said he would. And he did add vertical like I said he would. I thought I was pretty spot on, to be honest with you. Now, back to the point of the project, the positive to his project was you didn't see it till the very end when it was all cleaned up. But if you took a picture of it, it was just like we talked about with a lot of the work I do too. Looking at it on site, it's not as impressive as looking at it in a photo because you're too close to it. When you get farther away and you realize what he did and how perfect his lines were and the details that were in that baseball field, hats off to him, pun intended. No, that wasn't easy. That was a hard engraving job. That was an impressive staining job. It was only the vertical part that hurt him just because he didn't have time for it or wasn't as good at it or whatever it is. Like, I'm not going to, again, not knocking anybody. His floor was awesome. It really was. The 2 logos that he did, disappointed that he did the Guardians instead of the Indians. I said that to him as soon as I saw it. But, there's nothing you can't take away from it because, again, it's a competition. Someone else has to win. He knew it wasn't going to be him. He still did a great job. He still had a great time with the experience, and he's learned a lot. And we talked about, what next year would look like. And even if maybe he did something with me because of the engraving and, just little things like that, like he's not discouraged where he doesn't want to do it again. It's now he understands what it is to be in the dance and how that looks and what that's going to be for next time if he gets another chance and things like that. So, I give him a lot of credit for that reason. I'm not going to say he was in over his head, for example. That I'm not going there in any way, shape, or form at all. I think he should have been there. He had a right to be there, and everything like that.
I didn't realize exactly what the design was. The one thing that I think would have helped that out is if he would have asked us to actually turn the slab, that like where the like when you walked up, it looked like the baseball diamond was
really good point.
And we would have absolutely done that, if he would have requested that. So that would have been the one thing. You kind of had to walk all the way to the one corner
to make a note for next year for that
to actually see it. And if that was like dead straight on,
the slab was turned into a diamond.
It turned into an actual diamond. Yeah. The other thing that you brought up there was the photos, and yeah, like it literally looked like a baseball field in photos. But how different the things look. Like I will say, like being there in person, I already told you guys my favorite one was the truck, the one that won. When you look at the photos, though, like Cody's thing is incredible in the photos compared to like
and the Simpsons.
Incredible with the lighting and everything. And I didn't realize this till Friday night. I was scrolling a little bit, and I'm like, wow. If this was a photo contest, then I think he would have won.
Yeah.
But
right.
Man, how cool.
And it wasn't until I got home to go back to post about the show that I looked at his picture and was like, oh, now I get it. Now I get the baseball field. Like I knew it was a baseball field, but I was like, But it wasn't until I sat down and looked back on the week and I was like, wow, okay. I just went up there and snapped the photo and kept walking. And it makes me remember what people do to my work too, to the same point. That's exactly what happens to me every single time too. With the mirror last year, people were just coming up and taking a picture and looking at it. They're not understanding what's in the mirror and why the mirror is there. And that's okay. That was my fault and everything like that. It is what it is. I took a chance. But, that's so, a lot of positive to the learning curve of everything too and the future of what he can do. And then the last one is Joseph. And the great thing about Joseph's is like, I'm not going to say a bunch of negative or anything about Joseph's. We all in this room right here in this conversation know how complicated that design was.
Yeah.
Not a lot of people know that. And hats off to him for trying to pull that kind of thing off. And I texted him Sunday and said that, like, I'm royally impressed that someone actually tried to do what I've taught them to do to a T, not just a pattern or just the basic math, but to literally go as far as I go on these designs and go for it. And he did. And I think that he accomplished a lot mentally, personally. I think his team is going to be more impressed with, I think they're going to love working with him in the future. Like, he brought his team. He didn't bring stars to help him. He brought his personal guys and wanted to show them all this kind of stuff and wanted them to be involved. Every single time I've done this, I've always brought in my students that have never done this before. I've never brought a team either. I've never tried to bring other people that actually are successful at doing what I'm doing or bring the vertical guy in that knows how to do the vertical or anything like that. I've always just brought my students or done it by myself with every competition I've ever done. I mean, you remember in San Diego, I wasn't even supposed to do that brawl in the fall. I was there to teach a class and you were like, hey, this guy backed out. Can you take over for me? I had no plan to the night before. And I'm sitting there, and back to your joke earlier about what about this one and what about this one. It's exactly what I was doing, Captain T. I was literally at we had a dinner for all the contestants, and I'm sitting beside Jeff and Jason, and I'm sketching and going, what do you think about this? What do you think about this? Because I didn't know what to do. Like, I had not had any thought about it, and I had no plan. I had no time at all. Everybody else had already started. I just showed up,
Under the gun.
And I threw it down, and it is what it is and stuff like that too.
I want to say real quick how grateful I still am because that bailed us out like crazy because I don't even remember who it was. Somebody backed out on us like literally like 2 days before, and we had a spot to fill, and there was only one guy that I knew that even had a chance of talking into this, and it was Rick, and he did it. So that did mean a lot to us.
And that was the second year of it?
Third year.
That was the third year?
Third and final year, yep.
Okay, yeah. So, because I was trying to remember why I didn't enter in the first place, but that would explain it. Okay. So yeah, for the record, I have done, I have cheated and gone twice and stuff like that. It does happen, but that's because they needed me.
Right.
But no, I had a lot of conversations with Joseph through the process, and I was trying to help him with color, and I was trying to, it was so frustrating for me because I just wanted to jump in. I tried so hard to just sit there and just point and go, no, this, no, no, I can't go in there and show you. If I could just have 10 minutes with you, I could show you what I'm trying to show you, but I couldn't do that because that's, I wasn't going to break the rules or get caught or anything like that. So it was a struggle for me to watch him try to do what I do. And probably, I'm sure he has a lot of respect more now for what I do because I make it look easy, and it's not easy at all because there's a lot that goes into it, especially when you get to the coloring part of it. The math is easier than the coloring without a question. But then I was able to bring their team over to my thing that I did and go, this is what I'm trying to explain to you. And they're like, how did you do that? It's like, I can't tell you, I have to show you. That's the biggest thing about my techniques and why you come take my class in November at Decorative in Cincinnati, FYI. But,
Don't know the exact date yet, but yes.
Supposed to be in November, that's all I know.
Yep.
But, to the same point, we've talked about this over the years that people were always trying to reach out to me and ask me questions. I can't tell you over the phone. I've got to show you. It's not offensive. I'm not trying to hold my secrets. It's too hard to understand unless I literally show you in person and let you do it right beside me so I can guide you through what I'm doing. And that was my only struggle with them was I loved the idea. He did a lot of the things I suggested to him. I think he could have taken it 10 times farther and done a lot better, but it's fine. It is what it is. I hope he was happy with his result because he did do something very difficult.
Yep, and he kind of from the very beginning, I think he was incredibly happy with the result, and from the very beginning, like he kind of was relaying to me like, hey, there's no vertical element to this slab. We kind of know we don't really have a chance of winning. We just want to create something really cool, and they did that. So
yeah,
hats off.
Yeah, I would say we talked about how he thought, hey, I'm just going in this for the experience, but he had that experience with you last year, Rick.
right.
What I thought was really cool was he gave that experience to his team, his young team, to go in there and compete and do what they've been, learning. That was
Which
pretty
also
cool.
made it frustrating for him because I was like, show them how to do this. And he goes like, I didn't think I was going to have, like, he didn't wrap it. You don't think about who your team is until you're there in the moment going, oh, shoot, I've got to show you how to do this. At that point, he had too much going on, and he was just fighting his own battles of timing and everything like that. The one mistake he made was I had mentioned to him that you should fill all the lines and make your life easier and just fill the lines in with like brass or like, like some kind of color, like a gold or something like that. He's like, yeah, that's a great idea. And he did it right then. Well, that's not going to dry for hours. So then it messed him up with trying to do shadows and doing all the other stuff that he was planning to do. We had a lot of great ideas, but that threw him, and it took longer to dry than expected too. So he was running out of time because he did that too early. He should have done that last, and maybe he misunderstood what I was saying, or I didn't say it. Whatever. It is what it is. But that set him back farther than he expected because he couldn't mask as easy as we do with what we do because it was going to get into there and create more mess.
What did he use to fill those lines with? I'm curious.
You're 90 polyaspartic.
Okay, because the next morning when we got back there, I want to say the slab was already broken up, but it was either broken up and just laying in a pile, or maybe they might have broken up before I got there Saturday morning. That stuff like grew up out of there and like swelled into this really cool. It almost looked like a rope, or it looked like weld on top of it. Like it literally, I bet it grew an eighth of an inch out of the slab. And it looked so stinking cool the next morning when that stuff dried. And that's why I was curious. I know that the quick fix can kind of grow like that. Some different urethanes can grow a little bit like that. We have a water-based urethane that'll turn into like spray foam.
Yes, yeah, it's crazy.
And even our rock hard urethane, if it gets deep enough, it'll start to like swell like that. But it looks so cool. So that was the Poly Armor 90. Nice. That's pretty cool. I'm gonna have to try that sometime. It's almost like it bubbled, but it laid over. It looked like those lines were just welded.
Was it
That's
hard
awesome.
though?
Oh, it was hard. Oh yeah, yeah.
Okay.
But it didn't it didn't develop that till overnight sometime.
Well, that's why I was asking because I've never seen it do that either, and I've used it many a times
Yeah,
myself. So
same here.
that was an interesting,
I
huh?
wasn't expecting you to say that that's what he filled it with, because I didn't think that stuff would
Yeah.
do
Well,
that. But I know it's
and I
finicky
had
on
mentioned
thickness,
to
and
him
it gets
about
pretty
using
thick.
like a water-based epoxy instead,
Yeah.
and obviously you guys didn't have it there because no one planned for that, you
Mm-hmm.
know. But so I was, and we plan to talk again this week too. We haven't had time. Neither one of us. He's been busy, but I just can't say enough about the fact that it's such a honor and such a it's a big deal to not only see all your students in the competition, but to see one of your students literally try to mimic what you do and do a great job. It wasn't like it was like horrible or anything like that. Yes, he could go farther, but for what he was capable of doing his first time, I think he learned a ton. I think he's going to be able to take that and find more business in Cincinnati because of it. You know, the positives to back to the point of you're taking a chance. What are you going to do with this chance? And what are you going to get out of it afterward? You know, those are the biggest points to all of this. It's not necessarily who wins or loses. It is what's my market? What am I going for? And here's an opportunity, you know,
Mhm.
and Jeff and I have already been talking about what I want to do for next year. And it's the same kind of conversation of like, I'm going to change things up and I'm going to do something again, like I thought last year, no one's ever seen before. And we're going to see how it goes. But, you know, there's a lot to be said about that. Of course, I have to get in, but I assume I'm already in because it's me. Depends on
The
the competition
applications have not
entering.
been reviewed yet. We haven't
I didn't
reviewed
say
any
Assumption.
that. I
applications
didn't
yet.
say that. It's just
All
me. So
right.
I assume that always. I'm the purist. I have to.
That's a
Um,
great point.
It's hard for me to
I
sit
talked to
here.
Isaac a little bit, and he was talking already about trying to sell a couple jobs with like the outdoor slide. So
'Kay.
100%. That's another
to
good
your point,
example. You're right.
yeah,
Right. Right. That's exactly why they did it, and the grotto and everything to it. Exactly my point. Another perfect example of that. You know, The Simpsons, on the other hand, I mean, unless you're going to get into amusement parks, what did you accomplish for your clientele? You know, again, awesome, and something that you want to do on your own. Hats off to you. Like, I'm not saying in a negative way. And what I plan to do next year is not about clients at all because I'm retired anyway. And that's kind of what I realized. I was like, wait, for the first time, why am I trying to do stuff related to my work? Like, why not take this a different direction and do something a little bit more clever, maybe?
I like that idea. I like the fantasy side of it. I think, hey, this is the Smackdown competition. You can do anything you want to do. You might as well do something that's really, really cool, and maybe you'll never sell a job with it. I do
Right.
like that side of it.
But
Yeah.
I will say this for Rich and Jenna, the kind of work that they do is very niche, even for decorative
Yep.
concrete. And they don't just do decorative concrete; they do a lot of stuff with woodworking. They do a lot of stuff with
Yep.
iron. They take on a lot of projects that are incredibly unique, and that might not be, you know, like that Simpsons theme, or it might not be like theme park stuff. But I will say, doing that showed their entire like clients like what they are actually capable of, and I actually would say that that is going to get them some work
That's
down the
awesome.
road. Not for like that kind of work, but it just shows how diverse they actually are, because they can do vertical rock work, they can pour concrete, they do concrete countertops, and that's only like a quarter of what they actually do. So I actually thought that was really good for them.
Awesome.
And if that was like in a different crowd,
Yeah.
it would have possibly won. But
That's another
we're in a,
point. The
we're in
concept.
a, yep. The concept was great. When they first asked me about it, I was like, I was blown. I was like, this is awesome. I love this. But I'm also a big Simpsons nerd. Have been since '93 or whatever, you know.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think there was just too many people that were a younger crowd that never really watched The Simpsons growing up. But then there's also, am I allowed to say? Am I allowed to talk about Amish on here, Rick?
You can talk
Why
about
not?
whatever you want to. I don't know who
Okay,
listens.
edit that part out. There's also a lot of Amish crowd there that might never, you know, they don't even have TV and stuff like that, so they might never even seen The Simpsons. So,
Right.
um,
That's an
That's an
excellent
interesting
point.
point. That's a really good point too, because
I
the
was going to
truck
bring that up.
does not relate to something else. It's just a truck. It's not like you're looking at that, like I said about cars and making a joke about cars. It's not exactly like cars. It's just an old truck, you know.
Well, it kind
So
of was.
there still is that.
At one point when they had the peat moss on it, it looked exactly like
Toe
Mater from Cars.
Yeah.
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 But that's an excellent point. I was going to bring that up. Like the concept, Tim's concept with the baseball, you're taking a chance. How many baseball fans are in there? Maybe there's people that aren't baseball fans. They're not going to resonate with that.
I really thought that it was funny that he did a baseball theme at a football Hall of Fame. I thought that was like that. That caught me off guard. I didn't expect
that point. And then like just what Jeff said with the Simpsons, you got to catch a certain person to resonate with that enough to vote for it. So these are all just the variables in the Smackdown. So many. There are.
It made me think about something too over the weekend. Man, I don't know if I should say this, but would South Park been better, like for the crowd? I don't know.
Depends on the amount of Amish there. To your question earlier,
yeah, because you're right. That part wouldn't have made a difference. But I thought about that. I was like, are we just showing our age here? That we think this is going nowhere.
And the thing about Simpsons is it's universal to everybody there. The thing about South Park is, if you're a hardcore Republican, you might not like what South Park's doing right now, and you might vote against it for that exact reason. That becomes a little bit more on a political side for the craziness of what they do, actually.
Maybe.
Okay, so the next thing that I wanted to talk about, we have not brought up at all. We even failed to bring this up in the pre-show, and I was very disappointed with both of us afterward when we realized, and we almost forgot again. I was about to say, what do you think? Are we done? And we totally forgot. We have to talk about the lifelines. We haven't mentioned it once. So I have so many questions for you, Jeff, because there was a lot of controversy over the lifelines the entire time. Did you know this?
Very little. There's lots that happened. A lot of what you guys have talked about, what has been news to me already. Like what you guys talked about here, saying that we already lost when they brought the truck in and things like that. And so I heard snippets of controversy, but I don't know enough that I can make any comments on it now.
See, this is exactly the point to Captain T and the Purist. This is our job to tell you what the people are talking about, because you don't have enough time to do all that. And that's not a negative. You have a lot going on. It's more important that you make this great next year while we help in the background and tell you everything you need to know, and all the controversy and all the drama.
All the juicy drama.
Everything. That's what we're here for. So multiple complaints about the lifelines. Multiple complaints. Seriously. And most of it was because they spent hours with... Now, here's a catch to this point. I'm going to make this point. They spent hours with Keith, with Cody, and with Lewis. They were the top three, and they spent the most time with all three of them.
All right.
So let's real quick go over the rules of the lifelines per the official rules. Jeff,
so the official rules would be 1 hour per day per person. As in, so it would be a maximum of 2 hours per day per project. Now we never set any hard rules that has to be 2 separate hours, or they could both be working on at the same time.
Oh, sure, of course,
right. Whatever that might be. There wasn't any hard rules on that. It was kind of a first come, first serve thing, as in whoever lined this up with them and got it scheduled first, like you're first in line. So if you didn't communicate with them, you're going to get shuffled to the end of the day or whatever it might be. But the whole timing thing, again, that's something we're going to try to get better at as we go along too, and making that more like official, like start, stop. I felt like this year it was more controlled than it was last year, but there was 2 of them this year, and last year, there's supposed to be 2. There only ended up being 1. So, obviously,
last minute decision.
It was kind of turned into a let's just work all day kind of thing. But
so I heard a rumor, not necessarily a rumor, but I heard that they were a team has the ability to steal the lifeline from another person during their time. Is that true?
That was kind of a joke that got thrown around. I don't even remember when that got thrown around. That was never really part of the deal. I'm not sure who made that joke, but no,
I'm not sure who I heard that from, but I heard that and I thought that's interesting. I mean, that is an interesting twist on the use of the lifeline.
All right. Just for the record, Captain T, you never say you don't remember who said that to you. You always say you will not give away those
details. Yes.
Yeah. We will not tell you who said these things. We let everybody
We will
know
hold
that's
that to
listening
us.
right now. If you talk to us, we will keep your name out of this. We will not tell anybody who said this for the record. Not that we forgot who said it, even if we did.
And whoever it
Yeah.
was that brought that up, I remember when they did, I thought it was interesting in like the idea, but it wasn't something that we had talked about beforehand. And so I kind of just nixed it like in the beginning, as in like, no, we're not going to come up with this on the spot. If we're going to do something like that, it's going to be like thought out. And that wasn't the case. So no, that was never an actual official thing.
Okay, so from our records, we basically understand that both lifelines hand painted the entire truck. And there's no way that it only took an hour for the two of them to paint that entire truck. Let's just start there in one day on the numbers of this. In fact, from my records, it was at least 2 hours that both of them spent hand painting that entire truck.
Well, and I seen Cap's video today. Maybe it was yesterday. There is proof they're both working on at the same time. Now, obviously, I didn't. These are things that are hard for me to like pay attention to during the actual thing, and obviously the time. And we discussed beforehand that we're going to be not hardcore like down to the minute on time, but that we're going to try to keep it more to what it was supposed to be. So, but
Well,
again, ultimately these things happen and everybody's collaborating and working together. And I kind of look at it as in, hey, as long as everybody's happy, I don't really care. But yeah,
well, of course, the people that were getting the lifelines were happy. The other ones were not. I mean, I personally saw Keith working on Keith's. Boy, it's hard to say the two of them in the same sentence.
Yeah, that's.
I personally saw him scratch coat that for hours. He scratch coated the whole thing. 100%. I watched it. And I was like, man, nobody must need this guy because he's just busting it. He's got his headphones on and he's going. Now, here's the other thing to everything we're saying here. First and foremost, the lifelines are awesome. Okay, we're not saying get rid of them. We're not saying they're not needed or anything like that. And on top of that, too, both of them are incredibly talented. So if they are influential on the top three teams, there is a reason for that. We are not sitting here saying, oh, they helped the top three teams, that's why they won. They just helped them a little tiny bit or whatever. No, they're so good at what they do that's why this is so important, because they were an integral part possibly to the three of them winning. Possibly. There's no way to actually say that. It has nothing to do with the voting. But we definitely saw, again, carving the dragon. They had the boards up there. They were standing on there for a long period of time also. We both saw that. Captain T and I both talked about that. So again, that dragon was the winner. The most important part is why they won. And we watched the two of them hands-on that dragon with them.
So what I'm hearing is we got to get more stringent on time next year.
Just a little bit. Like an hour and 10 minutes is fine, but 3 hours is not.
No, I get it. This is the stuff we need to know, guys.
So, to the same point too, another thing that's important for Crystal to know, just FYI, Crystal, if you're drawing for somebody with your VR glasses, you might want to think about using soapstone, especially on a floor, because she did that on Joseph's, and then he probably didn't need to remove it. Back to the same point, I'm not saying she did something wrong, but she penciled the entire design she was going to do with a spider and everything, and then he changed his mind and sat there for 2 hours erasing all of the lines and trying everything he could to erase them because they were going through his design. And it was like, it might have been a great idea, but it didn't work for him, and it set him back because of it. So, something to be thinking about from a lifeline point of view is be aware of what you're sketching with, because if they don't want to use it, they need to be able to get it back off of there too.
Or just anytime you're sketching anything on concrete, just use soapstone.
I was going to say it that way, but I'm sure there's reasons why she uses pencil sometimes too. Emil uses pencil, and him and I argue about this all the time too. But yeah, just that's another little FYI of like, maybe you make a rule, soapstone only, because then the person that you drew that for, if they like it, they can go pencil it in if they have to the same point.
So this is what would help us. If you guys compile your list of,
we are right now. We're recording.
I know, but I'm not writing.
All you have to do is go back and listen to it and write it down.
We got time for that.
Jeff's saying, put a list of our grievances together for him.
That's what I was trying to say. Yeah.
I think you need supervisors for the supervisors for this one next year, and
Actually,
the two of us would like to be the supervisors of everything. You know, we need referees.
We just got somewhere, guys. We just got somewhere. So are you two both willing to do this?
Well, if I'm competing, no.
Right.
I would be willing to do it.
Be two or can it be just one?
I think you need two if you got 8 teams.
There's just too much going on. And plus, now that you split them on 4 and 4, you do each one takes 4. Yeah.
And we're calling them referees. Is that what you said?
I don't know. They could be umpires. It's up to you. I think that it would be funny for them to walk around the whistle and be like, Bert, you've been there for
governors of the Smackdown.
Governors. Now, but the fact that it's wrestling themed, we probably have to stick with referee because that's what it would be in wrestling, right?
Yeah. Yep.
And UFC and any other sport, yeah.
Now, Tony,
or umpire.
I don't know. You might have to wear like a ref outfit for this thing.
Yes.
Yeah.
100%.
Yep.
We'll come up with
I might wear a ref outfit just to confuse everybody.
An orange and black referee. Yeah, boy, that might look like a prison jumpsuit. I don't know.
All right.
I like this. I like this.
Yeah.
So we need a list of grievances, and we've got one now, and we're going to need another referee.
Okay.
I like it.
Yeah.
I like it.
Yeah. I like it a lot too. And then, of course, it has to be someone that's there a lot more. Like, to your point earlier, love Nick Lang, but don't make him that because he's going to be on the other side of the building, bouncing all over the walls. Yeah. He's going to miss some stuff because he's all, just like we are. It has to be
a dedicated duty.
Right. Yep. And I agree with you because I'm the same way too. It would be hard for me to sit there the entire time and watch everybody too. I wouldn't, the governor thing is a little bit different compared to a referee, to your point. But, the referees have to be there and be aware and pay attention.
Yep.
There's also something to be said about not referee necessarily, maybe, but like a referee also with the wheelbarrow race then. That might be like the next thing to add to it. Not that you need it very much, but like if someone falls and there's a foul, whatever, they fall, blow the whistle and be like, hey, be careful, be careful as you're coming by. This person's falling right by where you're going. I don't know.
I know a couple people in the wheelbarrow race didn't go around the cone like they were supposed to.
Right.
So the referee would blow that dead. Throw a flag on that player or whatever.
Flag on the play. I agree with you on that.
Definitely be throwing a flag out there.
Yep.
I'm liking this.
Yes.
I'm liking this.
Yes. Yeah.
No, this is good stuff because it is. I will say this though, in all seriousness, as it gets bigger and as the stakes grow, I mean, we were close to $20,000 worth of prizes and cash this year, and as that number continues to grow, it's going to have to get a little bit more honed in as far as the actual gray area goes. We're obviously, anybody who's ever been around Decocrete, we live in the gray area. That is what we are all about, is gray area. But when it comes to this and the way that the stakes are getting to be, we're going to have to minimize that, in the Smackdown area and try to get it more fine-tuned. So I love the idea of a referee and not only you guys, but everybody else. Like, the only way for us to know the grievances, the only way for us to know that if something happened and that somebody had a problem with is if you tell us. Like, there's, like, again, a lot of this stuff you guys are telling me, I had no idea.
Right, and you would have found this out if you weren't here tonight when you finally listened to the show, and then you would have called me and been like, what the hell, why didn't you tell me all this?
Sure, but this was way more fun than that.
Yeah, I agree.
Yep.
I agree. It definitely means that we didn't need to do another post show. This is a perfect post show. Like, I hesitated when you guys asked about my point of view on the Smackdown. I was like, okay, are we going to have a separate show for this, or are we just going to do it all right now? And we did it all right now. It is what it is.
I thought it went pretty good. I thought it was pretty good. For a little bit there, I was wondering if I should maybe just turn my camera off while you're doing that part, so I'm not associated with it. But I think you cleaned it up pretty nice.
I was like, did I do okay? I thought it was, like, the easiest. Isaiah Pride said it perfectly. I have the most backhanded compliment.
Yeah.
Yep.
And it makes perfect sense, and I can't argue that. Back to the same point, it is what it is. Like, I can't deny that. It's a very good way to say it, because I know plenty of compliments.
Like that. Yeah, that can literally be like ridiculing somebody, but the other person, the person they're ridiculing, thinks they're giving them a compliment the whole time.
Yep.
Yep. Awesome. Anything else, you two? What's we know you don't have plans yet for next year, but what are your thoughts on any changes or plans for next year? Is the wheelbarrow race going to be longer, more obstacles, or do the same thing again roughly just to get your feet wet on the capabilities of it?
Yeah, so that's not that's sort of Jason's part of it, so I can't say for sure on any of that. But from what we talked about, and my guess would be we would love to make it longer. I don't know that that's going to be physically possible, just with the space we have, unless we really drastically shift something else around. It might have to be the same length. Now,
actually,
as far as
there's a way for you to fix that.
What's that?
There is a way for you to fix that. You were telling me about it. The weight center, the weight stuff back there is going to be gone next year. So actually, you may have more room because of it.
That is possible. And it would make it maybe another 15 feet longer or whatever, which is good. But that's 15 down, 15 back. That'd be another 30 feet. So, as far as obstacles go, I can promise you it will not be the same as it was this year. It'll always be changed up a little. I don't know if he's planning on adding that to the amount of number, but definitely they're going to be switched up and going to be changes. In Jason's words yesterday morning, you guys don't even want to know all the ideas in my head right now that I have for next year for that.
Yes, we do.
So yes, I don't know the details, but to answer your question, yes, it'll be very different. Although there'll be enough that's the same that it's going to carry over from one year to the next, and then like I said, length. Hopefully, but there's a chance it might just have to be where it was again.
Is there any plans yet for the Smackdown to start creating themes or, something based for each year yet? Or we're not ready for that yet?
That's a lot of people have brought that up, and I'll be honest, I'm kind of the one that drags the feet on the theme Smackdown stuff because I get like part of it, and it does help the application process. It does help people like zone their frame of mind a little bit instead of trying to come up with an idea just in outer space. They're at least given a little bit of direction on it, so that does make the concepts go easier. I just personally, I am all about a completely 100% open artistry exhibit with absolutely no restrictions at all. It is the only restriction is it needs to be with decorative concrete. And, again, a lot of that's just me. I'm very passionate about that part of it. And I don't like to restrict people on you have to make this, you have to make that, you have to make that. It also kind of creates, it takes a lot of the, and again, this part's easier for some people, but it takes a lot of the artistic vision out of it because you're now starting with, like, for example, like, okay, this year, like, everybody's going to make the best concrete couch they can make. It's like, there is a lot of cool like elements to that, but at the same point, we're all making a concrete couch. So that would be like for the really zoned in part of the theme. Now it could be something more like, okay, this year it's pirate theme, so everybody does their best pirate theme or whatever it might, football theme, baseball theme, whatever it might be. But in my mind, I'm thinking about like everything that happened this year, and then you walk down, like think how different every single one was. Mm-hmm. And I know that makes the voting tough. I know that makes it hard to say that there's a clear cut. Us sitting here talking about it, it's hard to say there's a clear cut winner or not because they are all so different. But I personally, I love that part of it, and I will continue to drag my feet on the theme part of it.
No, I think I agree with you. I just wanted to ask because the people want to know. It's not me wanting to do that.
Yep.
If people want to know these questions, and I agree with you 100%. I will say I have one idea for you, and it's not necessarily a theme as just like making one year a little bit more complicated. And this is how we were talking about how like maybe they can't do anything ahead of time, or it's how you do it ahead of time to give them their ideas. But how you do the pulling out of a bucket for which one goes first and which place they get, then you also pull out what they have to do.
Yeah, and that's cool. I definitely think that's cool. If I'm that person, I don't want somebody pulling. I don't want it to be that random. Like, what am I going to end up getting? I want to be able to create the vision in my head.
I would think I think
it's a great idea, though. I love it. I just don't know that. To me, that just feels very restrictive for that person. But
if you were gonna do it, I would say the only way to do it would be to have two categories: functional or fantasy.
Sure.
Don't go into a specific theme where we're all making the same thing, but maybe one
No,
year say, hey,
right,
it's all functional,
right.
and next year it's all fantasy, and you can maybe flip a coin every year or flip flop them every year. But overall, I do agree with both of you guys. Keep it open all the way.
No, and my theory to that is very vague. It doesn't
Yeah.
have to be super specific. It could be there has to be an eagle in it. I don't know. You know what I mean? Like it could be very
Sure.
vague, and you can do whatever you want, but you just have to throw this one little theme into it. To the same point too, years ago we did this film competition. It was called the 48 hour film festival, and you meet the first night at this meeting, and they literally pull your name out and they pull 3 things you need to have in your video. Whatever you do outside of that doesn't matter. But they have to, and since it was in Nashville, it had to be like some icon of Nashville, and so there were certain things that you had to like come up with based on the vagueness that they put as their criterias. And then you go home and you have 48 hours. Go. And you got to you got to write this all together. You got to go film it all over town, and you got to edit it all in 48 hours, which is insane. And I think we finished it in like 49 hours or 50. We didn't even, and if you don't finish in 48 hours, you don't even get voted on. They show it, but you don't even get a chance to get voted on because you have to finish it on time. It was insane to try to pull off. You don't sleep for 48 hours. It was an amazing experience. But, something like that is not a terrible idea. That's all.
No, it's definitely cool for sure. And again, a lot of those things have cool factor. It's just a matter of like which way you're going to go. It also it can bring a lot of subjectivity into it, as in like just even like the fantasy versus real. Like where do we draw that line? And then you got people arguing, well, no, this is real, or no, this is fantasy, and it kind of it creates it just distorts the lines a little bit. And that from my end of things, it's a lot easier just to say free for all, guys, do what you want, rather than to have to make like a ruling. Obviously we've got a lot of rules, but to make a ruling on it's not going to count because it's too fantasy, or it's not going to count because it's too real, like I just don't want to be, we don't like putting ourselves in that position.
Yeah.
No, I that's a very good point, but I'll throw one curve at you to that same point. You just said all the discussion that's going to be based on that. Like to say this year is going to be fantasy versus real doesn't mean that anybody's picking one or the other. It is, what do you think? What is your vote on fantasy versus real? And it becomes the audience's interpretation and the discussion, just like walking through an art museum or walking through an art gallery and discussing the pieces, because we now have a reason to have a discussion. So you can look at it the other way of like, what do you think? Is this fantasy or real? Doesn't matter what they're doing. They can do whatever they want. It's not about the contestants. It's about the observer and giving us a criteria on necessarily voting as much as philosophy, point of view. I don't know. Like they could look at it that way too.
And I think that would be something if there was ever like a panel of expert judges, then that would actually then there would be criteria in that case. But I'll be honest, one of the biggest challenges in anything like this is like the voting process and determining the winner. And the easiest way to do that is just pick your first, second, and third place and submit your vote, and that just streamlines it for us. And so, to try to come up with is this real? Is it fantasy? To vote in categories, it just becomes too overwhelming, not only for the person voting, but for us trying to tally all that. And so, a lot of this, the simplicity of the design of it is just simply based on ease of, like, we've got to have this happen like fast. We have to go from it stopped,
time is
and
of
we
the
have a
essence.
winner in less than an hour time. And in order to do that, it's just the easiest thing is first, second, third, and that's it.
Well, as long as you keep the rule that you can only work from opening to close, then I will always stand behind you. Once you go back to you have all the time in the world, even when no one's there, I'm out.
Nope. That and honestly, on our end, we couldn't even do that because the first year the facility wasn't sure what to expect. They were pretty lenient with us, like, yeah, you guys can be here as long as you want. We're going home. Well, the next year they tightened up a little bit. This year, no, they did not leave until every last one of us was gone. And so, if it got to, we had to tell them beforehand, like what night people are going to be there till a certain time for. And so even though the one night, I don't remember, I want to say it was Thursday night. it was over at 5, and that's what it said on the rule sheet. And I was just going to let everybody go till 6. Like, hey, everybody's out hanging out. There's a couple people that, obviously Keith could use an extra hour, being the fact that, how much of a disadvantage he had. And literally at like 5:20, I got a call like, you guys were supposed to be gone by 5. And they're like, well, we said the show was over at 5. We didn't say it would all be gone. So in that case, Rick, as long as it's there, that couldn't even happen, even if we tried.
I just wanted to clarify that since we're doing this.
Yep.
What was I going to ask about that too?
The 40%.
Oh,
how do you guys enforce that?
Yeah, that's another good question.
Again, it's subjective. We've never had any complaints about it. We've never had anybody say, I don't know, I think they were more than 40 done or whatever. And it's just kind of there as in they keep this in the back of your mind. And, as you're doing your thing, like if we get to a point where we walk in Thursday morning and it was this huge, like for example, like Chris's piece, if they were down to just adding some detail on color, like obviously that 40% is out the window. As far as like the carve mix goes and all that, everything's so different. Like, where do you draw that line? So
yeah,
again, it's just kind of one of those things that we keep in our mind that we could, like, if we seen something that we thought was too far done, then we would bring it up and disqualify it. But it's also there for all the other attendees to, like, if you felt like somebody break the rule, you got to let us know. And so far, nobody's ever said that to us.
No, they don't tell you guys that. They tell us that.
Well, and again, it doesn't. That doesn't help. That doesn't help us.
Nope. I agree with you. The last thing I was going to ask about what we were just talking about too is, what does the people, the facility, the Football Hall of Fame, what do they think about this show? What is their reaction to it?
They love it. Like, honestly, they absolutely love it. The people that work there. Don't get me wrong. Like anything, especially in our trade, there's bound to be a couple disagreements, and we had a couple spats this year on a few things. But overall, they absolutely love us. They love having it there. They think the show is just cool as heck. They're always, all the staff's always walking around looking at all the different projects, and they keep making that comment about, man, this is just it's so cool to have this here. So no, they love it. Now, they're always worried about dust, and they're always worried about sparks, and they're always worried about, strong smelling odors in there. And so, there's a lot of rules we have to try to live by. But so far, we haven't really broke anything or given any reason that to kick us out. So,
yeah, I don't want to talk about safety. I'm going to stay out of that.
Yeah, that's a different.
I'll just say that
someone different conversation, and obviously that's not on them. That would be on now.
No, I know.
Stuff was provided. It was provided.
But I will just throw out there that I'm not going to name names, Emil, at all. That told me to walk away because I wasn't going to like what he was about to do.
Yeah,
and again, I'm not going to name any names, Rebecca, at all, calling me the safety Nazi at all. And I kind of take pride in that, and I'm not going to deny that. But yeah, he was literally looked at me and he was like, "Walk away." I'm like, "Why?" Just walk away. And I'm like, and then he started cutting. I was like, "Cut!" So I had to walk away.
I'm take the fifth on this one.
I know you will. Like you said, it's all there. There's no
it's all
excuses.
there. All we can do is provide it. We are not going to force anybody to.
No, of course not.
Obviously, there might be certain things, but for the most part, normal PPE under normal circumstances. Here it is. If you want it, please use it. But we're not going to force anybody to do it.
And I did interrupt a few people and go, "You should be wearing a dust mask." I didn't push it to your same point. I just said, "Hey,
you can
what you're doing right now, you should really have a dust mask on." And then I just walked away, and it is what it is. After that point, I've said my piece. So.
Yep.
Awesome. Well, anything else, guys? This was a pretty short show, so I didn't know if we should keep talking or anything.
I don't think 2 hours is that short.
Yeah, it's.
if anybody's still watching at the end, thank you guys.
Yes,
they are. I promise they are, because we have been nonstop. There's nothing boring about what we've been talking about. So yes.
And the one thing in there, and I don't know if you there you can leave it the way it is, but I wasn't like, I almost got hung up when I talked about the Amish thing, because as I'm talking about it, I'm like, wait a minute, is this bad? Is it not? But I think it came across good if you just edit that.
No, it did. It did. They don't watch TV. There's nothing wrong with that. There's nothing.
I think that's pretty normal. I'm always worried about offending people. I don't understand why.
Oh, me too. I'm always worried about it. I still do
Really?
it, but I'm always worried about it. Yes, I am. I do like to have friends and influence people. I don't want to have enemies.
You don't want to
But-
push too
And
many
I have
people
a lot
away.
of great Amish friends for sure.
Yes.
Yeah. Oh,
Yes.
same here. We got a lot around our area. Great people.
So, well, awesome, guys. Well, I really appreciate your time. This has been fantastic. What a great way to put an end to this show and look forward to the next year. Any last words?
Keep loving it.
Just keep going. Awesome, guys. Thank you very much. You have a great night. Oh,
See you guys.
all right.
I was gonna roll with something, but I think this was better.
You go right ahead. Whatever you want to do, we're still rolling. All right, hold on a second.
Just on the last words, I was gonna throw a Decocrete for life in there, but
Ooh, that's a good one.
I mean, we all are Decocrete for life.
how do they do that in the NWO days? Like,
Yes. Yep. I know exactly what you're talking about. I think it was this way, actually.
yeah, there you go. Yeah,
Yep.
I have zero knowledge of what you're talking about at all.
Oh, come on.
No clue what you are talking about.
Hollywood Hogan, man.
It's just
yeah. And then they eventually split up, and you had Hogan's Heroes versus the Red and Black Attack of the Wolfpack.
Yep.
I sort of remember that. Yeah. All right. Thanks, guys. Have a great night.